Great. So it's interesting that a lot of these things people have guessed have worked. So there's an evidence base that's rising. And I think breath work is going to be one of the embodiment techniques that's going to be easiest to gather evidence on, because it's fairly easily to standardize a technique. So it's very difficult to standardize a yoga class, right? Because different teachers do it in different ways. Dance class, forget it. Meditation is kind of difficult, but breath work's like, okay, this many breaths, this is the rhythm. You can standardize that pretty easily. And the other thing is it's chemically impactful and hormonally impactful. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I use a blood oximeter rating. I use HRV, heart rate variability monitor on my earlobe, and I use a brainwave monitor from Muse. So I have these 3 electronic things tied to me, right? And I do my breath work. And within 5 or 10 minutes, they're all different. And it's not subtly different. It's like my blood oxygenation significantly changed. My heart rate has gone, I do the Wim Hoff, and with the breath hold, my heart rate goes from a resting pulse rate of about 80, 85, it's relatively high resting, to about 50 to 55. That's not a small change. And it's just, it's very obvious that these changes, and that's just me with my little home science kit, So I'm going, okay, anyone that's got real equipment is definitely going to be able to see changes. It seems like breath work is definitely impactful in a very short space of time.
Definitely. I would like to buy the same kit you have to measure my own experiments.
Do you want us to send it to you as a thank you for coming part of the day conference? We'll send it to you as a present. What do you want? You want the Muse or the oximeter or the HRV one?
HRV.
I'll get that sent to you. Send me your address afterwards, an email. I'll get you sent one. Okay, that's my present to you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I love experiments. My patients HRV. This is another important thing. Cancer patient who has high HRV will live longer.
Okay.
Even if the disease is advanced or metastatic. So I really train my patients in coherent breathing, and if they are ready to have large insights or really work deeply, so I do rebirthing breathwork style. I mean 10 to 12 cycles. It depends on the body. So there are different styles we might use in breathwork to help people, but HRV changes pretty fast, and many of my patients are changing the doses of hypertension drugs. Research published in Lancet shown that coherent breathing will reduce hypertension 10 points from the hypertension.
Yeah, it's significant, and a lot of people know about heart rate variability. Can you say just briefly what the concept means, right? Is it the difference? It's a little bit subtle. Are you able to define it? Because I always forget the exact definition.
There are two things which were coming together, but now scientists are saying there are 2 separate things, like respiratory sinus arrhythmia. When I breathe in and I breathe out, my heart rate changes, of course, yeah? And this is related directly to heart rate variability. So the bigger the change is in heart rate on inhale and exhale, the stronger and healthier the individual is. So the bigger the change is, it's better. If you have a flat RV, that means you are totally exhausted and your vagus nerve is doing nothing.
And how do we increase this variability? Because it seems to be a pretty robust measure of like longevity and health, not just in cancer patients, but you could almost use it if you were running an insurance company. If I ran an insurance company, I'd make you tell me your HRV before I gave you a fucking quote,
Like, it's a great idea. I hope they are listening.
You hope they are. They aren't. We didn't say that. We'll go back. So like, it's because it's such a robust measure that's been really shown. I know the heart math people are really into it. I'm not sure about their research, if it's scientific or not. I'd love to get your opinion on that.
More or less it's scientific. They had nice experiments. They were asking someone very pissed off into laboratory, and the other one behind the wall reacted very strongly without even knowing. So they have a bunch of nice research.
Okay, it's worth a look, the heart math stuff, yeah? I think I met someone from their organization who was kind of grumpy and unpleasant. After that, I just sort of discounted it, but maybe he just hadn't had lunch or something that day.
Well,
So,
I was very amazed by a lecture of Roland McCratey, I mean the founder, during the Breathwork Summit of the Shift Network we had. I was invited as a little hermit from Poland. You know, I am quite new in the social media. I went out of my cave due to this Shift Network thing.
well, I'm glad we've got you early because I think you're going to be a megastar. And I can see East Europe generally rising because I remember there was a time when there was lots of young people like Hungary coming from East Europe and learning a lot. And now that time they've matured those people into practitioners now. And I think everyone's sort of a bit tired of the baby boomer American vibe. And there needs to be different attitudes, whether it's my British sarcasm or the Germans doing their thing or, the Poles, different people are like hungry for like different flavors around the work. And certainly the scientific stuff, which, was done with mindfulness, I think needs to move into other areas of embodiment. I'm often frustrated there isn't more studies on this. We had Helen Payne on, who's a researcher from the UK. We've got the dance doctor, Dr. Peter Lovett, who's done some research on dance, coming to the Embodiment Conference. But, there's all these centering techniques, for example, that say they reduce fight-flight response. But it'd be so easy to set an experiment up to test them. I'm not an academic, so that's not my gift. But it's like, I'd love to have any PhD students out there who want good ideas for studies and give you like 10 just now in terms of like testing different techniques. Like, why is there such a weak link between?
It's so difficult. You will not get a grant for this.
Yeah. Why?
I will never get a grant. I can't. I will. I'm not. I don't believe it. Especially in Polish conditions. No one is interested.
Sponsoring this. How much money would I have to put up to start sponsoring PhD students to do this work?
I'm not sure. I'm not really sure because I did my PhD in a hospital, so I'm not at the university. Yeah?
I think I want to sponsor it because I can raise money through the conference and we could get like a grant, to a few researchers. And
that's very nice. Team suggested we should do research together, for example.
Let's talk again about that. And there's a few other people that might be interested, but for me, it just feels like there's a lack of evidence base. There's not many studies on breath work or, all these other things you mentioned, body work and authentic movement. And Helen Payne does stuff with that, but there's not much out there. And I feel like I've probably got a pretty good network now to sponsor some of it, and we could do a crowdfunding. So, I could put in a few thousand and then crowdfund the rest, kind of thing, So
I hope we'll grow as a team. All this Embodiment Conference, it amazed me. I saw your advertisement just after I have launched my Facebook page, and I thought, yes, I like it.
Well, it's growing. I think we're on about 110,000 signups, and we're aiming for 1 million people. And it's really growing. The one-day event you were part of was just a sort of small, spontaneous thing for us. So let's stay in touch. You'll be at the conference. Where do people find you then? Because I Googled you, and I did come up with a Facebook. Like, what's the best place?
I'm on LinkedIn. And I don't have a nice website now in English. I always have so many patients and trainees and doctors that I was in my cave and I was hiding a little bit not to receive too much hate because I still receive a lot of hate and rejection during all these years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It does seem to come with exposure, huh?
Yes, so that's why I was careful with exposure, but still, I am on Facebook and I can be easily contacted. Everyone can write me on alicyaheyda@gmail.com, and I am on LinkedIn. I have a nice profile on LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn. So you want to spell your name, because that way, if people want to Google you, they can find you. So let me spell
my name, Heyda.
Okay, and your first name is spelled ALIC for Charlie, J for Julia, A for Alpha.
Yeah. You will find me. Yes, my look is quite characteristic. You will not mistake me.
There's a picture of you from an older picture, I would say, from the Amiga network that I'm finding there. And cool. So closing thoughts here. We got a little bit of time. Closing thoughts. So a few questions. What would you like everyone to know about breathwork?
I would like everyone to know that they can use this tool and remain free from any kind of mental confinement without joining any sect, without converting into any religion. You can regulate your mental state or reach higher peak states using different rhythms and cooperating or forcing a bit your vagus nerve. So you are free to go. Every mammal can do this. Yeah.
Wonderful. And what would you say for the sort of scientists out there, the more sort of skeptical medical types maybe out there?
Certain breathwork techniques are already researched, and they are researched quite well. Immunity is not very well researched, but it's very promising. As a practical person, I know that the patients sometimes would prefer cutting off half of their brain instead of starting any kind of mind-body intervention. You must remember that, okay? But for these people who, you know, have a little, they are opened, or let's say they have kind of good karma, or they are willing to change, this is the great way to start with any kind of embodiment. And without necessity to have a lotus posture, for example, I am unable to do lotus posture despite my...
Oh, you disappoint me. You disappoint me. You know, people don't realize the bar is actually relatively low, isn't it? You don't have to be flexible or do, you know, these kind of crazy chant and mantra. And it's getting easier as well. Like, people are getting more open-minded. I think you'll see your work get easier and easier in terms of people being open to it. You know, as people's sons and daughters come back from traveling in India or working in England and doing yoga in America or whatever, it's going to get easier and easier in places like Poland. You know, I went to a really good vegetarian restaurant in Krakow, and I was just, because my wife's vegetarian, and I was amazed. You know, I was like, this is a really good, it's called Krakatoa.
Where did you go?
Krakatoa, I think it's called, if I remember it rightly. It's very sushi place, but they do a lot of vegetarian type
sushi.
That's
my favorite restaurant in Krakow at Krupnicza Street. I know where you've been.
It's really very good.
I love it. Totally.
It's really very good. Yeah. So I'm not a vegetarian, but my wife is. So I have to go to very good vegetarian restaurants if I'm going to be happy, if it's her birthday or something, you know. So I always take her to the really good ones. And
luckily it was Krakow, not Silesia. Here we have black coal and meat.
Black coal and meat and potatoes. That's how it is. But you know what? That pragmatism is making, I would say, it's just a huge gift in that it's making you be super practical, right? It's like Paul Linden is one of my teachers who's in Ohio, and in Ohio he doesn't get away with what they get away with in Northern California, right? Ooh. And what that means is you have to be practical. So it's like that sort of practical, maybe even cynical kind of vibe is actually meaning you're doing stuff that people in California or Berlin are never going to fucking do. They're never going to do it because they don't have to do it. And I think that's a really, really big gift.
Well, maybe they were too comfortable in their life, so they can easily think about love, inhaling love, you know, breathing down rainbows and stuff.
I was in Northern California just as COVID was hitting. And the temperature in Northern California is basically like a Polish spring all year round. And they don't have the hot ass summers you have. They don't have the cold ass winters. No. They don't have the communist history, you know. And I was like, well, of course you're comfortable. You're comfortable here. And comfort doesn't breed innovation. Suffering does. Difficulty does, you know. So comfort's nice, and we all want to be comfortable. But ultimately, to wish for a comfortable life is a curse, you know.
It's a curse, like Wim Hof suggested. There is a famous writer from Poland. His name was Huasko, and he said, look at the peaceful country as Switzerland, 300 years of peace, and what they have invented, a cuckoo clock and cheese.
No, the Swiss Army knife. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we have quite a lot of Swiss listeners, and they do tend to be very good customers. So for Switzerland, I'm sorry, I do like your cheese, okay, if you're out there.
Okay, I like your cuckoo clocks. It was just a small...
Geneva's gorgeous. I love teaching in Geneva. It's such a nice place to teach. Okay, and do you closing message for the hippies as well? We should do last one, closing message for the hippies.
For the hippies, I accept every unicorn if it's a real experience. and hippies and crazy breathwork teachers taught me everything what I should know about practical breathwork, and they were very helpful. And really, I'm happy that I met them, and they were so different from stiff psychotherapists or clinical psychologists I have met later. So I am thankful. I am thankful, even if you tell me to breathe love.
You've got a generous heart. You've got a generous heart. So, dziękuję bardzo. This has been a real pleasure and a total delight. I'm guessing I'll see more of you. Don't be a stranger. You feel free to email me or Facebook message me anytime, okay? Cool. Anything to close? Should we leave it there?
Sorry?
Anything you want to say to close? We've got 1 minute if you want it.
Thank you so much. I am happy that you invited me, really. And I'm getting out of my 20 years retreat with cancer people and difficult, cruel people and everything you could meet. So new way, new start. So I'm happy to be here with you. And I'm open to any cooperation.